Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our third grade coaching session. This morning, we're going to be talking about reading, the realistic fiction unit, and our fiction writing unit, and a couple other little things that I want to share with you this morning. So let's get started. First of all, I want to remind you that whenever you start a unit, first place you should look is thinking about our TEKS and what we need to be teaching. And so I pulled two out that are really important for this realistic fiction unit. One is sequence and summarize the plot's main events and explain their influence on future events. So as you are working with students, make sure you're going back and practicing your sequence and summarize, but also getting them to really think about and talk about and verbalize with you the influence on future events, why things happened because something happened in the past. Also, 3.8b, which is describe the interaction of characters, including their relationships and the changes they undergo. Remember, as students start to read more difficult books and higher levels in books, um, not only the main character, but other characters in the story will change throughout the story. So that's one thing that you kind of want to focus in on is not only the main character and how they change depending on things that have happened in the story, but other characters in the story. Our unit, some things I want you to think about as you are planning. Please choose some valuable read alouds. And I just want to mention chapter book versus picture book conversation. I've heard some third grade teachers mentioning that they are reading chapter books for their read aloud to their students, which is fabulous, wonderful. Make sure that you're reading to those kiddos every day. But remember that you can also grab a picture book and share that higher level picture book with students one day. In fact, you can even take a break from your chapter book and say, readers, we've been working on this chapter book for a couple of days now. We're just going to keep it to the side. And today we're going to try something different and read that picture book and then go back to the chapter book the next day. That's okay. You can do that. The other thing is we really want you to have pre-planned sticky notes that have information about how you are going to model your think aloud and what are you going to have students talk about. As you are doing these checkpoints and you're noticing things that students are having a hard time with, maybe inference, then you want your think alouds and you want your student talk to go along with that. So kind of pre-plan those. And by all means, use your team. If y'all can do sticky notes for one book and then switch and share those books, you can get a lot of books knocked out in one fell swoop. And it'll cut down on the amount of work that you need to do individually. So talk with your team and kind of plan it out. Say, okay, we're going to do this book and these different picture books. How can we kind of split this up? So use each other. The other thing is that I want to remind you that you have this genre prompting guide on your campus, and in it, it has a lot of information about realistic fiction and prompting for realistic fiction, a lot of ideas. So find this book, find this flip book, and get to the part that has the realistic fiction from the prompting guide. And by the way, the files that are on the right-hand side, you'll see that the fourth one down says realistic fiction from prompting guide. I scanned this page that you're seeing right now and put this here for you just so you could print it out. It's not a beautiful copy, but you can print it out so that you know what you're looking for to find that prompting guide. Also, I'm very excited to share with you something from Mr. Toba from Jaeger Elementary. This summer, he attended our Literate Life class. That is a 4-day long class that we have in the summertime. And one of the things that we do in the class is we talk about read aloud with accountable talk, and we talk about the way that you can verbalize some of the reading strategies. And so Mr. Toba went ahead and typed these up for us and shared it with our class. And I asked him, and he allowed me to share it with the district. So I've also included this on the files that you can download. And these are just great little starters for either you to use for modeling your think aloud during your read aloud with accountable talk, or you could put these on chart paper one at a time or two at a time to give students kind of a jumping off point of how they can have conversation about this. So this is what will get you that much deeper conversation and deeper thinking about the books that you're reading. A couple of things I also want you to remember when you're planning and teaching this unit is make sure that you're still talking about point of view. Make sure students know first person, third person, narrator, and talk to them and have them verbalize about why the author chose to write it this way. They need to be able to explain that and to understand why the author chose it. Also, we're seeing great use of academic vocabulary. Please make sure that you're still using that academic vocabulary when you're talking to your students. And a great example of this is instead of saying to students, so where did this happen in the story? Say, readers, so what was the setting in this story? It's that easy to make sure that you're using the academic vocabulary. And we want them aware of it because they're going to see it again on the STAR test and you want them ready. So start using that academic vocabulary. Wanted just to remind you out there that are using Caffe that there are a couple of strategies that go along with Caffe. And this time I actually looked up with some help with my friend Glenda Webb from Gleason, looked at the lessons in third grade during this unit and kind of hooked them up with Caffe strategies. So when you're teaching lesson 3, which is igniting our imagination to make predictions, it goes straight along with predict what will happen next in Caffe strategies. When you're teaching lesson 7, it goes right along with make a picture and mental image. When you're teaching lesson 24, absolutely goes with summarizing text. So this isn't exclusive. There's other ones that go along with it, but we wanted to call your attention to this. So if you're using Caffe, you can make those connections. Also, if you're using Caffe, please make sure that you are scheduling those appointments and getting those kids their sticky note name up on the wall so they can verbalize what strategy they are using. That's kind of the next big step with Caffe that we're hoping to see throughout the district. Let's switch on over to fiction writing that we will be using. We're very excited about offering this unit to give students just a chance to write imaginative stories that build a plot to a climax and contain details about the character and setting. This is one of our TEKS for third grade, 3.18a. And so this is a great opportunity for students to be able to use their imagination, but also write using the strategies that good writers use, making sure that there is a plot, that something happens, that there are details, and that they include the character in the setting. In writing, please make sure that you are modeling your writing every single day. We should be seeing chart paper or a teacher notebook that has your writing in it. And students, even at third grade, still need to see your writing. So if you've kind of been hesitant about writing and you're still just kind of verbalizing, oh, writers, I would write this, go ahead and grab yourself some paper and get to writing. They need to see it. Also, you should be pulling groups during writing. Your strategy groups that you have in reading, you can do the same exact thing in writing. Pull a couple of kids together and work on some strategies. Also, this fiction unit is a great time to practice revising and editing, so make sure that you're covering those. Speaking of which, I want to remind you that Words Their Way is the word study program that is phonics, spelling, and vocabulary that's supported by the district. So if you are using the old spelling list that they get on Monday and they memorized and they take a test on Friday, it's time for you to come on over. We need to be using Words Their Way on our campuses. If you have some hesitation about it, you can absolutely contact your IS or contact your coach, and we would be glad to come out and talk to you about how to get Words Their Way going on your campus. Also, students need to have their own list of words. It can't we can't really have an entire grade level on the same list in Words Their Way. That's not really how it's set up. We want to make sure that students are getting what they need for phonics, spelling, and vocabulary instruction. So if you haven't started yet, it's time to get started. And if you need a little help, we'd be absolutely glad to help you with that. Because I want to remind you that we've got a writing DPM coming up December 2nd through the 11th. It's going to include revising and editing. There'll be 3 selections that they go through for revising and editing, and there's 15 questions. And then the other part of our writing DPM is a prompt-based personal narrative. And so they will be writing that prompt-based personal narrative. You want to make sure that they are ready for that. All righty? So with that, I want to make sure that you, if you're here for the live session, that you've signed in at the poll at the top with your campus name so that I can get a prize to you. And if you are one of the people that are listening to this session later, as it's recorded, because you know they're all available on our Project Share page. At any time, you can go back and listen to any of these recordings. If you send me an email that says, I attended the coaching session, and put your name and school, I will send you a prize also. Not as good as the prize that the people who are here live on a Friday morning at 7:30 are getting, but hey, you're going to get something anyway. So I wanted to say thank you for attending this morning. I'm going to hang out for a little bit, so if you have any questions, you can feel free to chat with me in the chat part. Make sure you downloaded the files, and if you're having trouble, I can help you with that. And I hope that you have a great week. Have a good Friday, everyone.